Hello everyone, this is Dr. Vijayalakshmi, and today we will be dealing with the topic that is Mental Health Act, the Indian Mental Health Act. Okay, and we are going to deal this topic under the subject Mental Health Nursing, which is being taught in GNM. This topic will be dealt in GNM second year, Mental Health Nursing, and the topic is the Indian Mental Health Act. So basically, what is the Indian Mental Health Act? The Indian Mental Health Act was made so that the mentally challenged, those who are mentally challenged, those who are suffering from any mental ailment, they can live with dignity and they are not harassed or discriminated on the basis of their mental illness or ailment. Okay, so basically, this act was made so that the rights of the mentally challenged can be kept there. The rights of the mentally challenged can be easily communicated to everyone and to the mentally challenged and to all those who are suffering from mental illness. And these rights have made the life of the mentally challenged easier and better than before. So moving on to the topic. The topic is the Indian Mental Health Act. The Indian Mental Health Act, it came into force in 1987. The Indian Mental Health Act was drafted by the Parliament in 1987, but it came into effect in all the states and union territories of India in April 1993. Actually, it was made in 87, but it came into force in 93, that is 1993, and it actually is a replacement of Indian Lunacy Act. Previously, there was Indian Lunacy Act, which was enforced in 1912 actually, and after that there were some amendments made in this act, the Indian Lunacy Act, and a new act was passed which was named as the Indian Mental Health Act. So it was drafted in 1987, and it came in force in 1993. This act replaced the Indian Lunacy Act of 1912. Basically a question arises that why this act was made and why did it replace the Indian Lunacy Act? It actually replaced the Indian Lunacy Act because the Indian Lunacy Act did not have all the facilities and privileges written and documented in it, and over a period of time it was observed that the mentally challenged needed more support, rights, facilities, so keeping those things in mind, the amendments were made and it was named as Indian Mental Health Act. So moving on to the objectives of this act, the main objective of the act were to regulate admissions into psychiatric hospitals and psychiatric nursing homes. This Indian Mental Health Act made it very easier for the people to get admitted into the hospital because previously they were not entertained in the general hospitals and there were very less psychiatric facilities in hospitals, and it was even very difficult for people to take admissions. So first objective of this act was to regulate the admissions in psychiatric hospital, to protect the society from the presence of mentally ill person. It also protected the society from the mentally ill person. That means it protected the society from the hyperactivities or the underactivities or the maladaptive behavior of the mentally ill because it regulated the admission in the psychiatric setups. To protect the citizens from being detained in psychiatric hospitals and nursing homes without sufficient cause. It also helped the patients that when they get well or when the treatment is complete, they can leave the hospital and they can return to their normal living, their normal lives and their normal routine in their own houses, in their own homes. To regulate maintenance charges of psychiatric hospital and nursing home. This act also has various facilities and regulations and laws written in it, which states that how the funding will be done and how the hospital governing and its running will take place. To provide facilities for establishing guardianship of mentally ill persons who are incapable of managing their own affairs. It also helped, this act also helped the guardianship of, in getting the guardianship for the mentally ill. That means the act told that who can take the custody of the mentally challenged when they get well or even during the treatment if they need like some people are admitted just for a week or only for ECT treatment or only for daycare OPDs. So in that case, who will be the in charge, the guardian or the accountable person for them? to establish central and state authorities for mental health services. That it states that how the central government and the state government will provide services and establish the services for the mental health facilities, that is the nursing homes and the hospitals. To regulate the power of government for establishing, licensing and controlling psychiatric hospitals and nursing homes. It also told that how the nursing homes and psychiatric hospitals will be set up, and how they will get the license, how a psychiatrist or a team of psychiatrists or psychologists can get a license, or how the approval will be got to open a psychiatric nursing facility or a hospital or a nursing home. To provide legal aid to mentally ill persons at state expenses in certain access. Moving on, next we have the chapters. The Mental Health Act is divided into 10 chapters, and all the 10 chapters, they contain 98 sections. And as this is an act, it contains all the legal formalities, the jurisdiction related to the psychiatric patients, the mentally challenged, and the rights of the mentally challenged, the guidelines for the state government, the central government, and the assurance of quality care to the psychiatric patients. So the act is divided into 10 chapters consisting of 98 sections. So the first chapter, it contains the preliminary information, and basically it deals with the definitions of the terms like psychiatrist, psychiatric nursing home, the mental health nursing, and it also contains the replacement of the terms. Like previously the term lunatics was used, but then afterward it was used as mentally challenged. So all these preliminary informations are in chapter 1. Next is chapter 2. It deals with the establishment of central and state authorities for regulation and coordination of mental health services. Chapter 2, it deals with this, it states that central government and state government, what they will do for the provision of mental health services. Chapter 3, it deals with the guidelines of establishment and maintenance of psychiatric hospitals and nursing homes. In chapter number 3, we will see that how the psychiatric hospitals and nursing homes can be established. That means getting the licenses, getting the permissions, the NOCs from the government, from the central government, and also getting the aids, the guidelines, how to establish, what to establish, how to make a hospital, how to run, and everything is written in chapter number 3. Chapter number 4, it deals with the procedures for admission and detention in the psychiatric hospital and nursing home. Chapter number 4, it deals clearly with the admission of the psychiatric patient. As we all know, and I will be dealing in the next class, what are the basis of admission for psychiatric patient. That means how the psychiatric patients can be admitted. There are various heads or the parameters under which or by which the psychiatric patients can be admitted to a nursing home or a psychiatric facility, like admission on voluntary basis. Basically the neurotic patients, those who are aware of their problem, they can come self and they can register themselves in an OPD, and then they can get admitted. The same way a family or a friend can admit, the magistrate can admit a psychiatric patient, they can be admitted under the reception order. So there are various parameters and aspects under which a psychiatric patient can be admitted. Next is chapter number 5. Chapter number 5, it deals mainly with the procedures to be followed for the discharge of mentally ill person from a mental hospital under different circumstances. So in chapter number 5, as we have dealt in chapter number 4, the admission of the psychiatric patient, in chapter number 5, we will be dealing with the discharge of the psychiatric patient. The discharge of the psychiatric patient is same as the admission of the psychiatric patient. If the magistrate admits, the magistrate himself or herself can withdraw the patient after the treatment, after the patient is okay, mentally fit. If the family members have admitted, they themselves can get the patient discharged. If the patient has himself gone, he himself can be discharged. In any case, if the patient dies, in that case also he or she will be discharged, and they will be handed over to the person who is owning the guardianship. Okay, so admission and discharge, we will be dealing in another topic in my another video. So chapter number 6, it deals with judicial inquiry regarding mentally ill persons possessing property, their custody and management of property. In chapter number 6, we are dealing with the judicial inquiry. All the inquiries related to the ill persons, the mentally ill persons, their property, their custody, the management of the property, anything related to financial issue, all the financial issues you can say, all the issues which belong to his possessions like land, property, house, or anything. That is dealt in chapter number 6. And basically it deals with all the belongings of the psychiatric patients. Next is the chapter number 7. It deals with the ways and means to meet the cost of maintenance of mentally ill persons detained in the psychiatric hospitals and nursing homes. In chapter number 7, we deal with all the financial assets, like if the patient is detained in a psychiatric hospital or nursing home, how it will be maintained, means from where they will get the funding. Will they have to pay some charges? Who will be paying the charges? If they are not supposed to pay the charges, then how the needs, like the basic needs, clothing, eating, treatment, sleeping, the needs, that means the beds, the clothing and everything, how all these things will be maintained. So that is dealt in chapter number 7. Moving on, next we have chapter number 8. It is the latest addition to the Act that contains a very noble and explicit provision for protection of human rights of mentally ill. In chapter number 8, basically we deal with the rights of the mentally challenged. There are several rights of the mentally ill challenged which were previously not fulfilled by anyone, either in the society or in the state or in the nursing home or in the hospital. But then when the Indian Lunacy Act was replaced by the Indian Mental Health Act, this chapter number 8 was a very new and a very good addition to this act, which consisted of the rights, which dealt with the rights of the mentally ill, which stated what are the rights what a mentally ill person has, like right to treatment, right to refuse treatment. If the person is not willing, he can say that I don't want a treatment, but that should be on a logical and basic background. So there are so many rights, for example, right to have their own possessions, right to have their different storage spaces, right to visit, right to have access to the visit of the visitors. If someone is coming, they can meet them every day if they want to. They can refuse treatment, for example, if they are admitted on some basis, like somebody has cheated them and got them admitted. So on that ground also, they can enjoy certain rights. They even have the right to email, to talk to the people, to write to the people, to have a telephone call or something like that. Means the communication can be established, properties can be handed over to them, they can take important decisions if they are sound of their mind. If the soundness of the mind advocates, they can have all these rights and they can enjoy all these rights and privileges. Then chapter number 9, it deals with the procedures to be followed for the establishment and maintenance of psychiatric hospital and nursing home, and the penalties which can be relatively severe and explicit for contravening them. Chapter number 9, it deals with all the procedures for the establishment and maintenance of psychiatric hospital. It deals how the psychiatric setups will be set up, how they can be established, where they have to be established. If someone wants to establish, then what are the guidelines or the rules to be followed? What are the things that are needed to be kept in mind before they establish a psychiatric setup? Next is chapter number 10, which is the last chapter of this act. It deals with clarification pertaining to certain procedures to be followed by the medical officer in charge of psychiatric hospitals and nursing homes. This chapter deals everything which it deals with everything and all the procedures that are related to the psychiatric hospital and nursing home, which are supposed to be followed by a psychiatrist or a medical officer in charge. That means if there is any issue related to the hospital, the setting where the patient has received the treatment or has not received the treatment or has been refused, or something odd has happened, or the patient has reported anything which is wrong or right, that all the things, the jurisdiction, the law, the rights, everything is written and depicted in chapter number 10. So this was all about the topic, that how the Indian Mental Health Act has helped a lot. And I hopefully feel that this video will be very helpful to all the GNM students, those who are reading mental health nursing, and those who are going through the topic mental health nursing and the topic Indian Mental Health Act. And it will also be helpful for the students of BSc Nursing third year, those who are dealing with mental health nursing. So thank you very much, and I hope you like the video. Thank you very much.